I've gotten enough feedback on my last video about the Oscars, and the main point of argument has been, what about the creator? So, did the creator get snubbed at the Oscars? Let's get into it. All right, so I think the first thing that should be said about any film that makes it to the bake-off, through the bake-off, and gets presented as one of the nominees at the Oscars is a winner. That is a huge accomplishment for anybody to be a part of a project that makes it to that level. That said, we know it's all about winning. So the question is, did the creator get snubbed by not winning the Oscar? I have my thoughts. Going back to Godzilla Minus One, looking at that, I still think that was the winner. But let's talk about why. So a great point was made in the comments of my last video by an artist who worked on the creator. They talked about that they made an $80 million movie look like $250 million. And that is absolutely true and absolutely spectacular. And I agree with that point 100%. And to me, the creator could easily be the winner. And had the creator won, I would have equally applauded and said, yep, that's awesome. But when I hold those two against each other, all right, the creator did something amazing with $80 million. Well, I think $80 million is still more than Godzilla cost to make. I'm gonna look that up real quick because, okay, yeah. So when we look this up, that's what I thought. I didn't want to speak out of turn. I didn't want to be wrong. So they're estimating their budget to be between 10 and 15 million, and that's for the whole movie. The whole movie. So yes, it is incredible what the creator did, what Gareth Edwards and the entire team did with $80 million. Absolutely. And I think that if you go and you watch, Gareth Edwards does several talks. He's on several different YouTube channels, and he kind of makes the rounds talking about this and what they did to go and get more of the actual budget to show up on screen, and really breaking down the process of making a movie and getting away from the Hollywood way, which is to have a redundancy for a redundancy for a redundancy on set, and most of that equipment and processes and people never actually get into a position to be used for the film. They're there as backup in case something happens, because you've got this giant, multiple hundreds of millions of dollars machine moving, and you've got to cover every contingency. And Gareth, to his credit and to the entire team's credit, is how do we do more with less? How do you strip away all that extra fluff and make something that looks visually amazing? So when I hold them up and I use the price as a measuring stick, Godzilla Minus One is the winner for me. The creator, still amazing. That's not to take away. I'm being too nice. Everybody should get a trophy. Everyone gets a trophy. It's just everybody should have a trophy. So the next thing that you would kind of compare these against would be the overall visual quality between those two on visual effects. And with this one, I would say that what ends up on screen, I would give the win on this to the creator. Now, you would immediately think that, well, Rob, you just said that the creator had the better visual effects, so shouldn't that have won the Oscar? Well, again, I think all things have to be taken together to make a whole, so you have the full picture to understand what it is you're seeing. And so, yes, the visual effects, I think there are, I can't come up with a scene or a sequence that jumps out at me as being bad to the point where I noticed it in the movie, in the theater, while I was watching it. I think it's probably some of the most polished end-to-end visual effects that you get to see. There are very few examples of that. There are some. There are others. We'll talk about those too. But really, the creator did an amazing job. And I think Rogue One has that too. I think Godzilla had that. I think this is the hallmark of Gareth Edwards. I think when you go to a Gareth Edwards movie, you expect that all the VFX to be amazing, and I think it should. He's one of us, so I think it's one of those things that he's able to talk and communicate both his vision and what's not working, probably in a way that most directors can't. So that said, when I look at Gareth Edwards running that project and it being done at ILM for $80 million, and yes, they have more polish and it looks cohesively better throughout the whole thing. When I look at Godzilla -1, there's moments where there's a sequence in it when he lands his plane on the island in the beginning of the movie, when there's some VFX that really jump out at you, like, oh, that feels a little compy right there. There's some moments like that, and there's some digi doubles there that you can feel the CG-ness of them. But again, I go back to $10 million, 35 artists. That's a huge difference. That the ability to overcome that, and 8.5 months. 8.5 months. This is not like they spent $10 million and a guy did it in his garage for the last 6 years. This Godzilla -1. What they did was absolutely mind-blowing. Mind-blowing. I've done indie. I've worked in that space, and I know how hard it is to do anything. I was the second unit director and the visual effects supervisor on a $500,000 picture, and you get what you pay for. I'll say that. Just to process the footage and bring it in and get it open and save everything in the right place and manage everything, at that price point, you can't do much. You can't do anything. So again, $10 million is I would love to have had $10 million on our indie film, but I know what that means. I know what that means. I know what $80 million means, and I know that all of that didn't go to ILM. But the other thing that ILM has going for it in that sense is ILM has a massive infrastructure that's already in place. I don't know what the infrastructure was for the team on Godzilla -1. I don't know how big, I don't know how much they use cloud computing and scale, but there's a reality to the machine, the mega machine that is ILM, which is amazing and awe-inspiring, and I would love to work in that machine. But that's an advantage. That's a big advantage. When I worked at Rhythm and Hughes, I had a colleague that left, and then he came back, and we were talking about the differences between ILM and visual effects and Rhythm and Hughes and visual effects, where ILM, he would say how they would get a shot on coming in from animation and it was still just blocked out, so it was like animated on tens, and they would put that to render every single frame fully ray traced, full quality. They would dump that in and have it back off the farm by after lunch. And we could never do that at Rhythm and Hughes. That was impossible. We couldn't do that. We had to do all kinds of creative cheats and hacks in order to compete with that type of computation power. We had to do things that just that put as much value up on the screen as we could, but not just throttle all the things and brute force it through. Places like ILM, Weta have amazing artists. Everybody there is top flight and top notch. So this isn't a dig on them, but there's a reality. When you can just turn up the throttle and push something through and make it happen, that's a huge advantage. That's a huge advantage. And I just don't expect that Godzilla -1 had that same level of advantage, is what I'm trying to get to. So I think the next thing that you could talk about is the world building, right? And I think the creator, again, this is Gareth Edwards at his peak. The world building on this is phenomenal, and I think the thing that makes the creator so amazing is how they went about shooting this. That they did a test where Gareth took a camera and a crew they got a little bit of money to do this test. They went to Vietnam, and they went and shot, and he just shot all kinds of things. A guy on a moped, and monks walking through the forest, and talking to a fisherman, and then took all that footage and cut together like an 8-minute trailer or sizzle reel, and took that back to ILM and said, can you make these people into robots? Can you extend this environment? And so they did 2.5D projections on concept art and all kinds of things to do it really on the cheap, and it came out incredible. And they took that film, that little 8-minute film, and they went back to the studio and said, we want to make this movie, and this is what it's going to look like. And that is the thing that got them greenlit. The studio said, go do whatever you did for that money and go do that for 2 hours. Like, go make 2 hours that same way. And it became like a defense that he could use when the studio was encroaching on the creative process of saying, no, wait, remember the test, this is going to work. Because one of the things that it talks about is that they didn't have all the previs and all the boarding and all the stuff that you kind of would normally do in these big giant tent poles. Gareth didn't do that. And when you're creating these robots out of people, normally, you think of like the Thanos, right? With all the dots on the face and the cameras and the big foam head and, all the stuff. And he got rid of all of that. Now, there was a flexibility that he talks about that comes with that, where in a shot where maybe on the day or planned out, you needed a robot here. So if you have the person wearing the suit with the balls and the tracking and all this stuff, that person now has to be a robot. But at times they found in the editorial that they didn't want that person to be the robot. So by having this be the inverse and doing a lot of this in post, it gave them massive flexibility. Now, let me back up one more second and talk about that, because one of the phrases we absolutely hate in this industry is the fix it in post. It's the worst to have somebody say, oh, we'll just fix it in post. Because fix it in post usually means poor vision, poor planning, poor execution, and then a massive struggle to try to make something good out of those pieces. So what's the difference? Why doesn't it work for some filmmakers, and why did it not just work for Gareth, but why was it so amazing? And I think it comes back to Gareth, right? And I think it comes back to the director, Takashi Yamazaki, on Godzilla Minus One. Both of these directors have visual effects background, have visual effects experience. And it's not to say that every director should have visual effects background, visual effects experience, but it is clear that the value of that experience, if you're trying to tell a story that relies heavily on visual effects as a piece of that fabric of telling your story, that is the thing that really sets these two films apart, in my opinion. I've worked with directors for years that you would think that after 3 years that they would have wrapped their head around it, and they're still struggling. And that's not a dig on them. This is a weird space that we occupy. And so sometimes to them, something like, oh, it'll be easy. Can you just this? It's like, no, that's incredibly difficult to do, and we don't have the budget for it. And other times they're like, oh, I hate to ask. This would be so hard, but could you do this? Like with a click of a button, right? They just don't have the context to know. And I think that's what we see coming out in both of these movies and why they're so visually amazing. So really coming back to that original question of did the creator get snubbed? Yes, it did. It got snubbed, but also no, it didn't, because Godzilla Minus One was equally deserving. Again, everybody gets a trophy. 2 trophies. Just give everybody one. It's an incredible film. I think everybody who worked on the movie should feel proud. And I know there's something different about being able to say I worked on this Oscar-winning film versus not. I get it. That's a big accolade. It's nice to be able to hang your hat on that. So, but going back to which was better, I don't think to me either one was better. I think in the end I was happy to go with Godzilla Minus One. I think the scales to me still slightly tipped for Godzilla Minus One, because that awesome underdog story, it's really cool to see somebody do something with so little. But I think just like we were talking about with Minus One, how it's changing and going to change Hollywood's perception of how movies get made and change the process, this does it just as much, right? So it's really incredible what's able to be done. So you're going to see a lot of people who think they can replicate this, who don't know the space, and they're like, oh, just come do like Godzilla did it for this much. We're going to hear that all the time. Well, on Godzilla. And, but we know what the big differences were. And it really came down to a creative team that understood the tools that they were working with and understood the process of visual effects, and were able to leverage that and squeeze every drop out of that dollar and get it up on the screen in a way that Many filmmakers cannot, and definitely a way that the big giant like corporate Hollywood cannot. Right? This, driven by spreadsheets and algorithms and committees, is not a way to make movies. To everybody who worked on The Creator, to Gareth Edwards, I tip my hat and say congratulations on a beautiful film, both visually and emotionally. And if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed what you heard, give it a thumbs up, a like, so I know to keep making these. If you didn't like it, well, thanks for making it to the end, and I apologize for taking so many minutes of your day. You can find some minutes down in the couch cushion, pull those out. They're next to the Cheetos to make up for the lost time that you had here. So thanks again for watching. I'm Rob Off, 2-Bit Effects.